Oh yes, you get a double dose of Incarnate today, so you can thank me for that. Regardless, excuse me. Lycans and gentlemen, children of the night, nocturnals, night terrors, and all things that go bump in the night. Welcome to your monthly treatment of shock therapy. The doctor will see you now. The doctor, excuse me, show me your woes and I'll cure all that ails you. I could use a doctor. Consider me your night watchman for this evening's festivities here at Mind's Eye Theater. I invite you to violate curfew along with me for this graveyard shift. I am your horror host incarnate for this sold out show. So, today, I mentioned at the top of the stream that you get a double dose of me because it just so happens that I did a live stream that wrapped up about an hour ago. A live stream of the horror action game, that was called Rip Out. It was my third playthrough after last night. So I am back on to do a watch party for the third episode of the horror documentary Terrorbytes. So, to celebrate my 4 years live streaming horror games on my channel, all month long I have been doing watch parties for Terrorbytes. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to boot this up, take a look, and even though I haven't received my Blu-ray copy, they sent out links, Creator VC sent out links for people to watch over YouTube, which is what we're doing today. So I invite you all fine people to take a look at your own copy that you would have received had you backed this documentary. And let me see. So let me just give you a rundown of what we have in store. This is from the Terrorbytes X account. So it says, the upcoming episode 3 of the documentary dives deep into the world of FMV, full motion video for those unaware, into the world of FMV horror games along with some of their most iconic creators like Ken and Roberta Williams, Graham Devine, and Rob Fulop, and explores how their DNA can still be felt in games today. So, I very much appreciate the contributions that Creator VC has made to this documentary series, of course. I'm looking forward to what it is that we have in store in the documentary. I'm watching it live along with you folks. So, I myself am interested in going down the rabbit hole of FMV. I'm trying to remember. I had seen someone discuss FMV regarding horror games mostly. I just can't remember when it was. It might have been. I know that there was on cable TV. There was someone that did like a countdown of all of 100 top games of all time, and I remember the discussion around FMV came up, and it was very campy, because as many of the tropes and ingredients were at the humble beginnings of survival horror, just because the gaming itself was growing up, the hardware was now becoming much more capable of creating the types of entertainment, or finally able to create the visuals that many of its creators had in mind. You have to understand, like, we saw at last watch, we saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which came out in the 80s. I'm talking about the video game, and oh my god, the pixels were so primitive that the chainsaw would be depicted by basically a single bar with a dot orbiting around it. It was the funniest thing. So I bring that up because I'm going to be asking all of you fine folks, especially those watching on YouTube, to give me what it is you think. If you've seen this before, this particular episode, what are your thoughts on it? What is your rating? And if you are watching it for the first time like me, what are your expectations? So that nicely takes us to the totem pole. So your options include a bottom of the burial, shallow grave, or high stakes. So, I gotta be honest, I'm gonna go with Shallow Grave. And I'll tell you why. For me, while of course I am happy that Creator VC decided not to do a single hour and a half or even 2 hour depiction of delving into the history of survival horror. And oh, by the way, the chat, I'm sorry, the totem poll is now live for all of you fine folks to vote for on the YouTube chat. Like I was saying, I'm glad that Creator VC has gone the route of multiple episodes that actually makes it easier for my watch parties, so we can have a breakdown of all the tropes that built survival horror. However, while an ingredient to the origins of survival horror is important, and yes, FMV is was a contributing factor to it, but I can't even say contributing factor. It was more of an ingredient, and with that being said, I wouldn't have dedicated a full episode to FMV when it comes to survival horror, especially 1 out of 5. Like, think about that. Like 20% of everything that goes into survival horror, you're gonna 20% of it, of the documentary, is gonna be dedicated to FMV, and that's especially puzzling considering that when there's more compelling components that went into the overall equation of molding the genre by the time we got to the original Resident Evil. I mean, think about the evolution of tank controls, fixed camera angles, the difficulty for survival horror to adapt to the HD generation with the landing of the 360 and the PS3. Think of the rise of independent horror, and I have to imagine indie horror on the survival horror side will come down the road. But yeah, I'm curious to see how they fill an entire hour just with FMV. But yeah, it's not the route that I would have gone. That's just me personally. But I'll reserve judgment until after the full viewing. So I'm excited for this watch party. I'm excited to get this started. So let me do my housekeeping, and then we'll jump right in. So this watch party is brought to you in partnership with Hotness TV. If you're in the market, and you probably should be, for either Jabra headsets or Samsung devices, I do ask that you use the link in the description because I have sponsorships with both. It would just serve as a nice kickback for the channel. Speaking of horror documentaries, the Mind's Eye Theater is a proud affiliate of the upcoming horror documentary Mental Health and Horror. So, whenever it is that comes out, I will be making not just a review of it, but a watch party. You'll notice the support link up top. If you're of a mood, it'd be greatly appreciated. Any contributions that you make will go back to the channel, and I'll just consider it your pound of flesh. One other item that you'll notice in the link in the description is the merch store that Streamlabs.com was so kindly able to provide for the channel. I will be having updates soon, within the next, I'm going to say within the next month. Hopefully there will be new designs that I will be debuting. So, we're coming to you live streaming on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Kick, X, Rumble, and Locals. In the enduring battle between Incarnate and the almighty algorithm, my fans are my strongest weapon. Therefore, I humbly ask for you to get them likes up. Therefore, without further ado, I now offer you this creature presentation. Igor, throw the switch. Okay. And 1 second, I'm just going to boot this up just so that my watch is hopefully synced up with yours. And we are starting now. Written and directed by Richard Moss. And I mean, if we're being honest, the incorporation of FMV was often used for like very cheesy effect. So which I'm sure that they will go into detail during this watch. So, very curious that they would go down this route. And you have to forgive me, I am still fighting something of a head cold. Prologue. Full motion frights. Oh, gee, that's another thing. They were very bloody. Legal thrillers, really? Busted you. Well, I don't know how much it did with that, really. Yeah, the depictions of torture, it was pretty gritty. FMV was obviously used somewhat with the Mortal Kombat games. This, using the sprites, the recordings of actual actors in costume to get those pixels. FMV is kind of like the EC Comics of video games because of how graphic it was. Very salacious. And what we have up first is Night Trap. Killing Time. Hasbro, imagine that. Oh god. Like Clue. Interesting. I'd never heard of this game. I bet you thought that was clever. Of course. Just like EC Comics. Uh-huh. Kidnap them? What's up with that 70s crustache? God. The beginnings of Five Nights at Freddy's. Something personal. God. What the hell? So you use these elaborate clamps? People live here? Oh no, now there's two of you. Was it? Really? Oh, Jesus. Could you imagine? Wow, they really did put a lot of effort into this. They're probably going to be discussing this later on in the watch, but you had Bandersnatch, which is a modern version of FMV. It's like an interactive movie. That freaking thing. Oh my god. Bandersnatch. Netflix's Bandersnatch. Oof. Really? Oof. You don't say. Mm-hmm. It's a B movie. It's basically a B movie. Well, that's debatable. What's next? Ah, the seventh guest. Or seven guest. Yep. Gosh. I suppose the one thing that actually would make people want to watch it, the pure cheese factor, the humor, unintended as it is. I don't even know what the seventh guest, the making of the seventh guest. I didn't know that that's a thing. Is that a? I didn't know if that was a woman or a man. Yeah. Well said. That's another thing, the limitations of what was available on things like floppy disks. You had to pack so much story. That was like a chick. Or a chick pretending to be a guy. Jesus. It's insane to think how much space they had to make these games back then when you think of the capacity of Blu-ray, of cloud storage, memory cards. How little, like a floppy disk. I'm trying to remember. Let me look that up. How much capacity? What was the capacity for floppy disk? 16 bits? 8 bits? Storage capacity. 1.44 megabytes. Jesus. I mean, think about how, like, dude, we get updates to video games that are like in the hundreds of gigabytes nowadays. It's insane that that's how much space that they would have to pack in to make these video games way back when, 30 years ago. Yeah, I bet that helped with the interactivity. So seventh guess is about ghosts, okay? Uh-oh. Uh-huh. Uh-oh. Uh-huh. Uh-oh. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. So a lot of these took after Clue, I imagine. Of course. That's funny. Interesting. Oh my god. Really? The Wizard of Oz? Oh, jeez. God, puzzles. Seriously. Clearly. Really. Really. Hmm. Is that Clive Barker? Jesus. Uh huh. Okay. The Fat Man. Wow. It would be great to have remakes of a lot of these pre Resident Evil horror games, like, beef it up the story and the plot, obviously, modernize it as much as you can. And for like one or two of them, it'd be nice if you kept that like cheesiness to it. Okay. Jeez. This is getting really emotional. What's up? Ah, Gabriel Knight? Nice. Supernatural psycho thriller. Right. Hmm. So that's what I mean. It would be great. I dreamt of blood upon the shore, of eyes that spoke of sin. The lake was smooth and deep and black, and was her scented skin. That's what I mean. Like, it would be fascinating for them to, for anyone, to go back and update a lot of these older classics. Again, pre Resident Evil. Unfortunately, the problem with that is that it would have to turn a significant profit because, unfortunately, the one of a piece of the legacy of the recent Alone in the Dark film or game is, as good as it didn't sell well apparently, and the studio was shuttered, which would discourage anyone from ever making a remake to that, or a remake to similar titles of that time period. Even though System Shock did the remake, and when does System Shock 2 Anniversary Edition come out? I think it's already out. I think that also would be a boon that would help to encourage people, whereas Alone in the Dark might discourage some people. I thought you said cheap designer. Oh wow. What? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, horror was looked at in a certain way, in a certain light, by the designers, by gamers, by the industry, and it really needed your Resident Evils, your Parasite Eves to really turn people around on it. Hmm. The camp part goes without saying. Mm-hmm. Really, voodoo. Oh Jesus. There were a lot of designers who they had started out with adventure games or dark fantasy. I know I know that Shinji Mikami started with, I believe, Aladdin or various Disney games before making the transition into survival horror, into Resident Evil. Wow. What? I had no idea that Gabriel Knight had this type of cast. Michael Dorn, Leah Remini, and Luke Skywalker. Oh, what? Tim Curry. Well, damn. For those that don't know, on top of doing watch parties of horror films and documentaries, I also do live screams of survival horror games. I think that Gabriel Knight, with a cast like that, I think that Gabriel Knight is on tap for Mind Games. That's awesome. What a stellar cast. Wow. Oh. Uh-huh. Yeah. That guy looks like he's fresh off of a soap opera. Hmm. I don't know. That sounds kind of cool to me. Mm-hmm. Really? That's interesting. Aspects of this remind me of Clive Barker's Undying, with family history and the like. Wow. A lot of thought went into these games. I never knew about this about Gabriel Knight. Wow. And Phantasmagoria. Here we go. I'm really impressed by the expose with FMV so far. I mean, I knew we were going to delve into 90s horror because that's the beginnings of FMV, and there were so many games that popularized it, that used this mechanic. Yeah. It's always adventure games and Disney content and the like. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting that we have back-to-back game designers that were looking for something of a challenge, and which is why they came to horror. Really? Wow. That only adds to the commitment with these games that they had to create an entire studio to make this to pull this off. I was gonna say that they definitely pulled out the heavy hitters when it comes to FMV. We're discussing now Phantasmagoria. We just got off of the seventh guest and Night Trap before. Interesting. Interesting. Uh huh. Wow. Really? So she focused more on plot, I'm guessing? Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. A lot of these games I have heard of, but I can't readily identify what they're about or what the story is compared to something like Doom or System Shock. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. It's gonna Evil Dead him. Really? Jesus. Hmm. And laughing maniacally in a dungeon. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. But then he bites her. Jesus, they put, oh my God. Yo! They put this in a 90s video game. Oh my God. Wow. Well, that took a turn. Jesus. My God. Not for nothing, but very Lifetime. Why is it that women always go that route? Why is it that women always go that route of abuse and like it's one thing to like drama, but my God, take get some control over your hybristophilia. What? Gee, oh my god. What? Yo. Jesus. Well, I did not know that this was... What the hell? I did not know that this is what Phantasmagoria was about. Oh my god. Jesus. Oh my god. Yo! I forgot how... Like, I knew that they relied upon, you know, the grand guignol of things, but my god. The bloodletting. Jesus. Oh, wow. Well then. Full motion failure. Uh-huh. Alright, what do we got now? Uh-huh. And then the technology started to develop. Guys, if you could remember to hit the like button on whichever platform you're watching this on, it just helps this bloodstream circulate. Jesus. Mm-hmm. Huh. True. Yeah, you could see it that way. Oh my god. Whoa, what the hell? I think that I've heard of this one. They go like overboard with the torture. Let's see what they have. Oh my god. Yup. Okay, that's a bit much. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. What the hell? Oh my god. That Jamaican guy. Freaking hysterical. The making of the 11th hour. 7th guest and 11th hour. I forgot about 11th hour. Interesting. Damn. Well, you got shut down immediately. What? Hmm. Wow. Again. Wow. Hmm. Jeez. Wow. Jesus. Wow. Oh my God. Jeez. Wow. This is definitely one of the more behind the scenes emotional episodes. Oh my God. Damn. Wow. Whew. Wow. Crazy, man. Jeez. Well. Wow. I never knew about any of this. Wow. Man, well, worse than the sale is what that game designer went through. My God, 80-hour weeks for 80-hour weeks for 6 months. My God. Jeez. Crazy. Yeah. Night Trap 25th. That's funny. What is this? Seventh Guest VR at dead of night. Yeah. What are we looking at? Mad Father? Oh, Her Story. Never heard of this. ER Story. I have not heard of Her Story. I'm happy that people are able to. What the hell? I'm happy that people are able to come back to this, with the 25th anniversary and make their own kind of spin, their own kind of tribute to FMV. I don't know. It looks a little bit too found footagey to me, you know what I mean? This particular case. Yeah, to say the least. Yeah, I'm not seeing what the overall story here is. Uh-huh. It looks very boring. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When she turns into a werewolf. Okay, so how did that transition into her story? Really? I don't know. I'm not seeing the selling point with this one. Yeah, I think it's time to move on because this her story doesn't seem particularly interesting. Yeah, the fact that they're referencing better stories like a Silent Hill, Shattered Memories like The Howling, you're not selling anyone on this. You're not encouraging anyone to play this particular game. Really? Play a bunch of videos? Yeah, this sounds like a bunch of work as opposed to something that's interesting. I'm afraid this one's a fail. I'm sorry. Yeah, no thanks. Yeah. Sorry, but they didn't mention anything that's particularly interesting about this particular game. Well, whereas I appreciate a modern attempt to tell or use the mechanic of FMV, yeah, this her story, no, it sounds very boring, and it sounds like work. Like, oh, and there has to be something motivating you to keep pushing forward. And man, I'm not seeing anything particularly interesting. Okay. Oh God. Yeah. Really? That's those were your bare bone building blocks? Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Thank God. Time to move on. Oh God, Until Dawn. Ugh. I absolutely hate this game. It's a QTE. And I hate Supermassive. Oh God. It's also not good. No, it's not. Even in video games, slasher masks are terrible and uninventive. Dude, your neck. FMV. It's a walking simulator. It's a massive QuickTime event. It's terrible. I have seen so many games that like were supposed to come out for a PS2 or PS3, and then they come out for later iterations of consoles. And I was like, I thought that I had written this off. I had written off Until Dawn, and then it came out, and I played it, and I'm just like, wow, this is trash. And the movie came out just this year, and that was also garbage. Hot garbage. God. The teen cast was also borderline annoying, borderline. I feel sorry for these people that they agreed to this. Sadly, much like what is it? The Fear Street movies, the new Scream movies. Until Dawn is a video game version of like homaging these like terrible tropes that should best be left forgotten. They're not. It's obnoxious that something as shallow as slasher films, as teenage horror, it gets such a notoriety. You know what I mean? One of the things that I love about the Terrorbytes is that, and I keep saying this over and over, it's that we finally get a documentary dedicated to a piece of horror that is worthy of celebrating, is worthy of, what's the word I'm looking for? Giving exposure to. You know, we don't need another slasher documentary. We don't need another Hammer horror documentary. God, I forgot about this. They did a whole Jigsaw. Like, Until Dawn has so many bad horror tropes. Horror tropes and horror, what's the word I'm looking for? Horror aspects to it. Like teen horror, slasher, the Butterfly Effect, that awful movie. The torture porn. It's just like it's jam packed with so much crap. It's obnoxious, and again, it's not a good story. It's not particularly interesting. The resolution, the characters, it's all so obnoxious, man. And to insist that something is cool just because it has kids or because you're making pop culture references, it's so cringe. The blonde chick in this is particularly annoying. The Chinese chick, too. Oh, God, The Quarry. I wasn't even going to. Like, after Until Dawn, I gave Supermassive another try when they did when they came out with the Dark Pictures anthology, House of Ashes, and I regretted it. Yeah, I mean, I am happy to say, and I don't mean to be a dick, but I am happy to say that their luck ran out by the time they did the. They. By the time the movie Until Dawn came out, because their luck had just run out. Which, good for them. That it sucked. It was a ripoff. I knew it was going to be a ripoff. The trailers told you it was going to be a ripoff. And the game isn't anything worth celebrating. And they're so clever for that, aren't they? Yeah. Hayden Panettiere. How is it that you did motion cap for this, especially with the facial expressions, and the character graphics aren't anything to write home about? Like, really? They're not complex. So the fact that they went motion cap was kind of laughable to me because it's like you wouldn't think that they did. Yeah. It's not giant at all. Dummy. Yeah. Please believe that Remy does not look fondly upon this game as some kind of career highlight. Jeez. I was worried that this documentary, this episode of the documentary was going to end on the note of her story, but we're going to get an even worse one with Until Dawn. Mm. On the one hand, agreed, but on the other hand, I mean, it's just Until Dawn. Like, what? No. Hell no. I would never live stream this. I could never put myself through playing this game again. It was not. It's not. It doesn't. It is insane to me how overrated this game is. Okay, epilogue. The Choice Revolution. I'm surprised they didn't go into Bandersnatch. Which admittedly isn't any good. The Quarry was another one I was going to have nothing to do with. A summer camp version of slashers. I was like, no thanks. I'm trying to look up. There is an interactive horror movie. That's supposed to be coming out in September. The name of it escapes me at the moment. September 7th. I'm saying to myself, is it a game? Is it an interactive movie? Dead Reset. There we go. So, what is it? Terrifying, gory, sci-fi horror FMV adventure with a super intriguing death loop mechanic. So that's going to be coming out in September. So I didn't know what it was specifically. I'm saying to myself, Malen Freitas, hola. Oh, es inglés. Yes. Sí. Sí, es inglés, pero yo hablo español. Anyway. Malena Freitas. What was I saying? So I'm looking at Dead Reset. I remember I saw an ad for it, I think on Steam. Oh, here we go. Bandersnatch. Immortality. I haven't heard of this. Immortality. So Dead Reset, I wasn't I wasn't sure if it was an interactive movie or a game. I'm like, do I do a live stream on it? Is it a watch party? Yeah, Bandersnatch. No, it didn't. Yeah, because it wasn't well received. It wasn't any good, and the fact that they attached Black Mirror to it just, oh man, it was such an L. And Bandersnatch was around the same time as that Sandra Bullock movie came out that also wasn't any good. Her version of A Quiet Place. So anyway, I'm going to be playing Dead Reset in September. I'm looking forward to that one. What was the name of this movie with? Bird Box. Oof, man. Bandersnatch and Bird Box came out in the same year, both on Netflix. Netflix exclusives. Oh, man. You talk about, like, so many people have spoken about, oh, man, why doesn't Netflix come out with more horror? The sad thing is that Netflix it's just not good horror. Like, think about that. Bird Box and Bandersnatch came out in the same year, and neither of them were any good. People completely forgot about Bandersnatch, and Bird Box was more laughed at than anything else. It was seen as a... excuse me. It was looked at as more of a ripoff of... What was it? A Quiet Place. I have been to 4D theaters, like at malls, where they have interactive movies. Oh, God. I hate when people try to compare something that's similar to found footage to War of the Worlds. It's like, dude, stop. Stop trying to legitimize a faux genre like found footage with something amazing, some integral part of the horror legacy, like the War of the Worlds broadcast. I mean, it could work, but you have to have a good story. Like I'm surprised they didn't mention Stay Alive, that movie. Oh wow, I didn't realize that they had so many prominent horror actors in The Quarry. I'm still not gonna play it. It's so funny. I thought about how FMV were stage plays watching this because it reminded me of, oh, what was it? Delusion, which is a operatic horror experience out in LA that takes place every Halloween that I went to back in 2021, where you walk around, you and a group of people walk around a house where a a story happens around you. So it's not like they don't want you to call it a haunted house. They don't want you to think of it in that way. It's more of like theater that happens around you, because whereas you, the audience, would normally be on separated from the stage by the seating in the auditorium, you are on the stage with the actors, and like I said, the story happens around you. So, all right, this is now to the. I'm not. I'm not. Why do they have 20 minutes worth of what do you call it, of credits? Anyway, let's get to the end of this. So, there were a lot of interesting tidbits when it came to this particular episode. Like I did mention at the top of the stream, I'm saying to myself, like, is FMV really that, what's the word that I'm looking for? That imperative to survival horror and its history that we have to dedicate an entire episode to this? I still kind of feel the same about that, because like I said, there are other interesting aspects and components to survival horror, what makes up the tapestry, that I do feel like other ingredients could have and should have taken precedent. But I am happy that I got to see the behind the scenes with much of what it is that we did see. I'm happy to see the behind the curtain of what went into these productions, and clearly they were productions with all the effort and all of the. I mean, man, they had to build or rebuild entire stages. So I do appreciate that, and with Her Story, that 2015 game that they showed, it is always great when when you can have a long since expired or out of vogue ingredient or style of horror, and someone decides to make a comeback for that. That's always cool. I mean, that's genuinely appreciated, because someone would think to do that. And obviously Her Story had some kind of audience, but I wish that they had been a more interesting example of it in modern times. The same with Until Yawn. Oof, man, do I hate that game. But, and they did mention Bandersnatch. So I don't know. Hopefully when I play, and let me take a quick read over what the synopsis is for Deadstream. Let's see. Trapped in a terrifying death loop, surgeon Cole Mason is kidnapped and brought to an underwater facility, forced to operate on a patient to extract an evolving parasite. Jesus. Dead Reset is a blood-soaked interactive horror where each death brings you closer to the truth. Interesting. And the trailer's playing. It is in front of me on Steam, and it's a movie, basically. Wow. Well, here's hope. Fingers crossed that this does release in September. That way I can stream this for, I guess it would make sense to make this a live stream, even though it is an interactive movie. Interactive fiction, FMV. Awesome. So be on the lookout for Dead Reset. Hopefully they do stick to their release schedule of September. I would absolutely love to play this. But what we did get, I am happy that we did. It was interesting watching all of this. This, like I said, this was definitely the most personal of all of the episodes that we've seen so far. So Jesus, with what that gaming director went through, just getting hospitalized because of the hours that he was working, pretty crazy. So I am interested in what they have going forward for us. I am going to be doing a watch party tomorrow for Terrorbytes episode 4, and that's going to cover the indie revolution. I was hoping that they were going to get to that, and absolutely make sure. I'm probably going to start probably at 8 o'clock. So make absolutely sure that you join me along with my watch of it. I very much look forward to that. Much more with indie games as opposed to horror movies. I am much more interested in the indie scene, just because the empty promise, and I say empty promise because it just feels like too often, because something is indie, automatically it's great. Well, it's unfiltered, so automatic, and we can't judge it on the same spectrum of the big boys, but we don't have to grade on a curve. I hate that, dude. I'm not lowering my standards just because some director, some indie darling is making a film. No, if you want to be able to play with the big boys, I got news for you. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, that Nightmare on Elm Street, that was an independent movie. And it was able to burst through the bubble to the point that it became mainstream in pop culture. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that every indie game ought to do that. I'm not saying that every horror movie does that. But that should be the benchmark. You know what I mean? And far too often, well, I'm not going to get into it, but far too often that's the case with indie movies. Indie games, though, have much more of a chance to break out, and often do. I think of the impact that the Slenderman games had at the beginning of the HD generation, the 7th gen consoles. So I was hoping that they were going to tackle that. I was hoping that Terrorbytes was going to dedicate one episode to the indie revolution, just because it really has come a long way since the early to late 2000s. And from what Razorfist had mentioned, that there were people who got into gaming who became developers by playing or creating mods for Doom or Half-Life. And so I'm interested to see what it is that tomorrow's watch is going to reveal. But I did enjoy this episode discussing FMV, and like I said, it really was with its campiness and gratuitous violence. My God, I never thought of it until now, because I never really did a deep dive into FMV with survival horror, but it really was the EC Comics of video games. So, coming attractions. Actually, before I get to that, I have been live streaming like a madman for you wild folks. So this past Thursday, I uploaded my review of the Predator Filler of Killers rant. That's what I refer to it as. Additionally, I went to see 28 Weeks Later, and I did a precaution, which is my preview of the film before I go to the theater. And I did an aftershock, which is my reaction video fresh from the cinema, which I invite you to take a gander at. This past Friday was a Terrorbytes episode 2 watch party. Saturday, I did a Rip Out, that's a video game, Rip Out Round 2 live stream. And earlier today, in addition to doing this watch party of episode 3 of Terrorbytes, I played Round 3 of Rip Out. Tomorrow, Monday, will be the Terrorbytes episode 4 watch party, and then Tuesday will be the Rip Out Round 4. So, this upcoming weekend, I will be away on something of a short vacation. I will be back Monday, June 30th, to close out the 5th episode of Terrorbytes for that watch party. So I hope that you'll join me for that. Therefore, mark your calendars and say your prayers. I've been incarnate, offering a word of caution. Fear the worst, so long you recognize who's best.
Your fate? Time to subscribe to your fears.
Scary night, isn't it? Well, it's like right out of a horror movie or something.
See you in your dreams. Oh, come back anytime. Bring your friends.
Welcome to my nightmare.